Hello, everyone, and very warm welcome to the third week of our teaching in the Social Network and Enterprise module. We very much hope you're enjoying it. We very much hope that you're learning a lot from it, and especially in this new way of learning as well. Now, you'll live digital, you breathe digital, so we don't think this is much of a surprise to you, but obviously it could be a bit of a change for some of you on the way you learn. Now, if for some reason you're unable to attend any of your sessions, please don't worry about it too much, because we are making every effort possible to record all our lectures and all our tutorial seminars. Now, you might not have them all, but we're doing our utmost to make sure that you have them all. So don't worry about it. And the key thing for us now is your own safety and security. So if for some reason you are going through difficult times or anything. So going back to the main subject this week and what we're going to talk about. Now, as you know real well, we've introduced the module, then we talked about different social networking platforms, but also we talked about what makes a social networking different, and also what is a social network, and we defined it in the second week last week. Now, this week, it's all about understanding what are some of the social media trends and applications to the world of business. So our focus in this lecture is to look at applications of different trends into the world of business, and also what do some of these social networking channels features that are embedded in these channels do for the world of business. So we need to understand very clearly what these platforms are, and also what are the benefits of these platforms for the business, and how we as someone who are going to be helping these companies grow, we have a really good understanding on it. So now I've got a set of slides that I'd like to share with you, and these are all available in the module website in Canvas, so don't worry about it. If you can't see here, or if you can't look into it right here, don't worry about it, because everything is in our module website. Okay, now why do we do this? Why do we want to talk about social trends and applications to the world of business? Well, unless we understand what are some of the key features of these platforms, we will never know how useful they are to the business. Okay, so we really need to dig deep and understand these social networks, understand the features, and then see how we can apply those to the world of business. Now, what are some of the things that we'd like to cover in this session? Well, first things first, we'd like to dig deeper into some of these features that these social networks, especially these popular social networks, have in place. We want to talk a little bit about personal branding, and we talked about this in the first session, and it's a topic that we come back to it quite often, but we strongly believe that as far as social media is concerned, if you are able to build a strong, solid profile of yours on social media, then there is no reason why you can't do the same thing for the business. Okay? And again, one of the most popular questions that we get from our students, especially the graduates, is that they say, well, I'd like to work for company X, company B, or whatever it is, but they're asking for experience on social media or pay-per-click advertising or affiliate marketing, whatever it is. How do we get that experience if we've never worked for anyone? Okay, especially those who haven't done a placement either. Now, this is where I say to them, it is actually possible to gain experience without even having to leave your room. In other words, as long as you've got a laptop and you've got internet connection, you can actually get experience from the comfort of your halls or whatever you're staying, or home, right? And that's because this digital age that we live into gives you that opportunity to learn without having to be working for someone else. In other words, if you've been really good, for instance, in building a strong profile on LinkedIn, right, and you've got some quite extended amount of people that are reaching out to you, are engaging with you, and things like that, then there is no reason why you can't replicate the same thing to the world of business. In fact, throughout this final year, hopefully you're going to gain enough knowledge and also practical knowledge by playing around with things on the web to get that experience, so then when you're in front of an employer, you're not going to say to them, "Oh, I understand what social media is, but I don't know how your business can benefit from it." But if you are able to if you're able to play around with it and gain some experience and gain some practical experience, then you can actually replicate that thing to the world of business. In fact, when you get asked in an interview, as soon as you're finished, you graduated from your degree, you can relate to very specific personal activities that you've had online to build up a brand of yours. Because at the end of the day, don't forget, you got your name and yourself and your profile. Your profile is your own brand, right? So what are you making out of it? Okay, what are you doing with it, right? And also, do you want that to be a well-known brand or not? And if you do, what are you doing about it? So essentially, that's not a huge difference between your personal and the business brand. Of course, you know, business is different, people are different, right? But at the end of the day, if you can make a success for your own personal brand, you can easily replicate the same thing to the world of business. In fact, you can relate to that experience and practical experience in your actual interview as well. And therefore, if you can relate to that to your potential employer, and if you can say to them, look, I haven't run a pay-per-click campaign for a business like yours, but I've done pay-per-click advertising for my own products that I was selling on eBay. Okay, and therefore done really well because I'm essentially I make my living out of eBay, or I make quite a decent money on eBay, right? And I've got a good profile, I've got loads of high reviews and so on and so forth, and I can replicate the same thing to the business. And there's no employer that'll say, oh, that's not good enough. Everyone would appreciate that, and everyone will be quite keen to learn more about what are these extracurricular activities that you have done in your work environment. Okay, so, and then the final point in there that you can see is about experimenting. Please note that social media is incredibly practical topic, right? It's all about getting your hands on things, playing around with things, and that is the best way to learn, right? And then with some aid that you're going to get from the reading of the books and journals and articles and things like that, you're going to build up a very strong profile in terms of the knowledge that you're going to have around social media. So it's all about experimenting, reading, right? And at the same time, bringing those all together so you build a strong triangle, if you will, whereby you connect all of them together into one place, and that would make you very well established as someone who understands social media, because you can relate to what has been published on social media in terms of books and things like that, and also you can relate to the latest practical examples and ideas that have been tested on social media. Okay, now why do we have to worry about so much about social media? Well, because social media essentially is now playing a massive role on the way we engage, on the way we consume news, on the way we shop, on the way we consume information. That now social media is part of this, what Chaffee called the engagement spectrum, meaning that social media is part of every, if you will, channel, digital communication channel that you're using, whether it's a mobile phone, a desktop, in-app, SMS, or anything else. It is part of all of these platforms, and again, now is part of our everyday lives. So it's important to keep that in mind as we move forward into the module. Now, Let's look at summary of how digital can impact buying process. Now, you might wonder, why are we talking about this now? Well, we're talking about this now because from the world of business, okay, from the business perspective, our goal is to learn how we can best apply the knowledge that we gain from social media into the business, and also how we can benefit from using different activities on social media to the world of business. Okay, so let's just very quickly represent a process, okay, that really essentially that shows clearly which are the areas where buying process is impacted the most. So when you look at this, you've got three stages. You've got stage in buying process, you've got communication objectives, you've got digital marketing techniques as well. But when you start to look into that, almost in every stage, a possible social media activity or social media profile or social media trend can actually have an impact on what sells and what does not. Okay, so of course you can look at first stage of buying process, which is the idea of being aware of the need for the product, starting for search, evaluating all the options you're getting, making the purchase, and of course leaving a feedback after you made the purchase. Now, throughout this process, you're going to have different news and ideas and activities and shares and whatever happens on social media that can have an impact on what you actually do. Then goes to communication objectives, right? The idea of generating awareness, building, positioning the brand with on product features and so on and so forth, generating leads, of course, assisting with the purchase and so on and so forth. But when you look at the last digital marketing techniques in here, right, very soon you start to realize that almost in every stage of this process, some sort of digital activity can have an impact on what we buy and how we consume what we consume, right? And that is why we need to keep in our heads that we need to get a really good understanding of social media, not just to benefit from it, but actually to keep our sanity as well, because there's incredible amount of information and we can be overloaded by social media unless we know when to switch off out of it as well. Now, let's look at application of social media across different business functions, right? Now, when you look at social media today, you think, well, social media is just it should only be part of the marketing team, but actually there's a lot more to it than just part of the marketing team. And the social media customer insights, or what we call the 5 M's, gives you the idea more about it, because it talks about marketing, it talks about sales, it talks about service and support, innovation, collaboration, and customer experience. So social media now is part of every channel you can think of, right? So it's not only part of marketing, it's not only part of sales, but it plays a key role on service and support, a really important role of innovation. Now, if you wonder why, it's because there's so many insights that brands are going to get for free, okay? So every upgrade that happens to your iPhone or Samsung or whatever it is because these very powerful giants companies, right? They are out there trying to find out as much information as they can about the products that they're producing, and also get that information to refine their products further. In fact, when you look at some of the new updates that they publish all the time as well, very soon you will hear from them saying, well, you asked for a better camera, we've given you. You asked for better sensors, we've given them to you. So essentially they relate to whatever you ask them over social media or through emails or whatever it is, and they implement those into the product. So product innovation really is refined throughout the year thanks to huge amount of content of social media. Now, if social media content is used wisely, then some of us argue that it could be a gold mine for brands. However, there are lots of brands that never really benefit from social media activities because they never really track what happens. They're really not actively engaged to understand what are the areas that their business needs to be improved on. Then, of course, there's collaboration and there's customer experience. Now, customer experience, without a doubt, is probably the single most important, if you will, metric that keeps you connected to a company. In fact, some recent research that I read a while ago said that the number one most important reason why customers left a company is it was not just the product, it was actually the bad customer experience they were receiving. And I'm sure you can relate to several examples in your own life where you just said, look, the company is okay, but the customer service is so bad and the customer experience is so bad that I'm going to switch. And therefore you switched. And now obviously switching from one provider to another is a lot easier than it used to be before. Now, who says what in which channel to whom with what effects framework? Now this framework by Jaffe, which was sort of like adapted from Laswell in 1948, kind of relates very well on the idea of social media. Now why it does? It does because once you know what's the source, which channel did that source come, what was the message, what was the medium that was used to deliver that message, and how did the receiver get the message, and what was the effect that that message had on the receiver, you then can very quickly get a better understanding on the impact that social media has in the actual day-to-day lives. Okay, so essentially, the idea is really to get a very good understanding that whatever is being said on social media is going to have an impact somewhere else, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, okay? And we know many, many bad examples of messaging that was used in social media, and it hasn't really done much of good to anyone in the world today, okay? But I'm not going to get into that now, but the idea is that this framework gives you that understanding that we need to know, we need to get really good at knowing which is the source that message is coming from, what the medium is being used, what is the receiver commenting or texting or thinking about it, and what is the end effect, okay? In other words, have a better understanding on what we're consuming on social media. But that goes for the brands themselves, because sometimes they can either relate to an article, an idea, or something that is not real, okay? Or they're relating to a publication that is not genuine. So it's important to have a really good understanding, because whatever is being said on social media actually has an effect somewhere else. Right from early days, I said that Twitter is, in this case, social media platforms, but specifically Twitter. Twitter is less of a technology and more of a conversation, and it's happening with or without you. And as you can see the date, that's 16th of October, 2013. That's 7 years ago. In fact, about a week time, well, 9 days time, 11 days time, it'll be 7 years since I've said this, right? Because lot of companies, even from early days, questioned us and they said, well, why do we need to be there, okay? And why it's important for us to be there? Well, it's important for the companies to be there because that's the only way you're going to learn what's happening, what's being talked about around your industry, around your products, or around your services. So you will almost be living in the bubble if you're not out there understanding, scanning, and having a really good overview of your marketplace. In other words, doing your homework. And that's why, in this case, when people ask me about Twitter, and by the way, this tweet was quite popular and lots of people engaged with it and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to make it clear to everyone that, the reason why Twitter, for instance, took off at that time, because it just became a really nice place for people to have conversations. And then I realized it's really a lot more about a conversation rather than a technology. Then, of course, that is all happening whether you're part of it or not. But if you're part of it, you will learn how what's working. You will learn what needs to be improved. You will learn what needs to be changed, and you will learn how to be better with it. But if you're not part of it, you'll never know. And that's why we're going to get to that stage very soon in the session. But experimentation is going to be absolutely key. Now, let's look at some of the benefits for the world of business that Twitter brings. Of course, there might be other benefits as well, but these are some of the most popular ones that are used in the world of business today. Without a doubt, the number one sort of benefit for the world of business is the better customer service. Now, you know that a majority of companies, even small ones, but especially medium and large, a majority of them are using Twitter as their customer support base. In fact, some of them have actually linked Twitter with an online ticketing system, which means that if you tweet something around the brand, automatically that tweet is picked up by a ticket system, right? Ticketing system, Zendesk or anything else, and that tweet of yours becomes an actual ticket for someone to review, to deal with before they get back to you. Okay, so it's becoming a place where customer service is being offered to their users. Effective communication, without a doubt, is a really great media to communicate effectively to all the people that are following you. And in fact, if you go on Twitter now, you'll notice that very quickly. It helps companies generate more traffic, generate more awareness around their brand, around their products and services. Why? Because if you're out there talking about not just what you provide, but also the services you deliver and things like that, people will notice that, and then before you realize, you start to get some of that attraction into your business. You can follow trends. You can get local connections. Recruitment, massive amount of recruitment happens around social media in the world today, and of course, other further business opportunities that could happen as a result of different engagement on social media. In this case, on Twitter. Now, Facebook, without a doubt, a giant on the world of social media. And of course, let's look at some of the benefits that they bring to the world of business. Now, as you've noticed, a few years ago, the massive focus was for Facebook to give the very best they could to the businesses in the world today. And they did by giving pages, like really business pages to the world of business. And of course, that page gave the opportunity for brands to present their cover photos, their logos, images, and so on and so forth. And that was a massive change. And in fact, lots of people argued, and even argue today, do you actually still need a website? with all of these activities on social media and everything that is happening now, people are arguing, do you actually need a website? I mean, is website is still a valid thing? You know, there's pros and cons in both ways. I mean, that's another discussion we can have potentially for hours if you want, but for now, I'm not going to get into that. However, there is so much that is being provided around brands on social media today that people are questioning whether that's still needed or not. Okay, so let's move on to some of the benefits. Well, these business pages that are being provided by Facebook to all companies around the world have about sections, application banner, turning off timeline comments, hiding recent posts, promoting posts, managing admin panels, milestones to timeline, and of course pinning your posts as well. But not only that, giving you a chance to add specific things to actual page, whether it's adding a product overview, adding information, adding tracking into the product page, and so on and so forth. So there's an extensive amount of add-ons or additional services you can add to your Facebook business page. And that is something that again, if you have extended sort of like, you know, customers in Facebook that engage with you, this can be incredibly useful to activate in the social media. But of course, you can start to see now why there's so much. Why, for instance, in almost every advertisement that you see, whether it's print or digital, for every brand, you'll start to see their Facebook, Instagram logos, and so on and so forth. Why? Because they know that through Facebook and Instagram, they're going to get huge amount of attention, especially if they have a lot going on in their sites. Benefits for YouTube. Well, for businesses from YouTube. Now, YouTube is another massive social network. Trends are incredible. In fact, whether it's reviewing a product or learning more about the news around you, YouTube is essentially everywhere. In fact, nowadays, probably the most popular application that is being accessed in smartphones, tablets, but also in smart TVs is actually YouTube, because you can just play stuff whenever you need instead of going and watching news that might not interest you at all. Now, they're doing very similar things to what Facebook does: brand channel, subscribers, log activities, YouTube gadgets, live streaming event. You can just live stream essentially your TV, your free TV, to reach out to the world. Okay, now I'm sure you've seen this, but successful companies like Red Bull and other companies, even news companies now, actually streaming live news. So you can go to YouTube and then you can stream live news without having, in fact, without even visiting your favorite TV channel. Okay, then you've got video editor tool. In fact, the video editor tool in LinkedIn, in YouTube, is actually as comprehensive as any software editing application or software in your computer. You can annotate stuff. You can annotate videos. You can upsell, cross-sell different products and services with a specific video that you're sharing. You can also recommend the user they go visit that video, visit this video, visit this thing, visit that thing. So in other words, those annotations that you can see throughout the video are very powerful as well. You can get things to being watched later, videos on TV, lean back and enjoy it. So these are some of the most popular features that I'm sure you already use them yourselves as students, but these are the powerful features that would be incredibly useful if you learned and if you get really good at them, because you can replicate the same to the world of business. Benefits for business on Instagram. Instagram is another massive social network now, really trending pretty much everywhere. In fact, if you open your smartphone, it's probably going to be there. Again, it's a place where it can be used as a brand channel. In fact, most of the brands that are being built now start with Instagram and then continue with everything else. It allows for businesses to connect with their customers across multiple channels, ability to reuse marketing material, working smarter instead of harder. In fact, if you end up building a piece of content that is very popular on YouTube, you can actually repurpose it or break it down into smaller pieces and then introducing them into Instagram timeline or anywhere else. In other words, you can reuse whatever's worked for you instead of trying to always create content that is incredibly useful all the time, because that's quite hard. It attracts engaged traffic, building community that engages. In fact, communities engage massively on Instagram. I'm sure you're part of that community as well. It can boost marketing with user-generated content. In fact, if brands wanted to create content at all times, whether you're Apple or Google, whatever it is, it'll be impossible to have a useful, genuine content every time you post something, right? And therefore, it's really important to realize that, generating content from other people is also quite useful as well, and that's what companies do all the time. Pinterest might not be as popular as you might think at your end, but it's still a popular social networking site. Brings massive amount of referral site. In fact, if you head back to their website, you will notice that several things are very similar. Several features are very similar to Twitter. Like, a pin is like a tweet. Repin is like a retweet, so essentially quite similar. But Pinterest is very incredibly visual, incredibly powerful as far as the visual side of things is concerned. And then the most powerful thing that sometimes people don't realize, that Pinterest is almost like an e-commerce, like a social commerce site, because whatever you're following, you can also decide how you're going to view that, and based on the value that you want to use it. So you can say, well, show me the pins that are between, I don't know, 200 to 400 pounds or something like that. So in a way, it kind of helps companies, if you will, filter down to specific clients or specific customers that they want. In other words, you can publish stuff, in fact, have the pricing associated with it, and then link it to your main website where people can buy and come and buy. What are the benefits for the business? We already talked about Pinboards, what they call. Again, Pinboards are quite powerful because it allows companies to group their images, group their content around these Pinboards that are then viewed by potential customers or fans or whatever they are. And of course, these are just some examples of some of the pins that are quite interesting and quite nice. What are the benefits for business? Company page, again, expert groups, in fact, group sessions as far as it's concerned, status updates, answers, connecting, recruitment, and of course LinkedIn ads. But this is more in relation to what actually LinkedIn offers to the businesses. Of course, there are some similar things to what Pinterest offers to businesses, but this is more focused on the actual features that LinkedIn provides to the world of business. And that can be the company page, which I'm sure you visited many company pages, expert groups discussions, status updates, answers, connecting, recruitment, LinkedIn ads, and so on and so forth. In fact, recruitment is massively dependent on LinkedIn now. So whoever you're going to end up working for, they will scan you through, they'll screen you and see what your presence is like on LinkedIn. In fact, we strongly recommend, we cannot recommend enough for you to start building your profile, especially LinkedIn profile, in this module while we're doing this. So then by the end of the module, you'll have a completed LinkedIn profile in addition to hopefully having a good grade too. So now what we want you to do, well, ultimately we want you to experiment. Oh, there's a good, nice plate. I'm getting hungry now. But what we want you to do is to set up these profiles, start experimenting and playing around with some of the features, for instance, that we introduced today, because they will give us some overviews on how it works and how we can improve and what we can do different next time. In other words, you will not know the taste of this lovely food here unless you actually, grab your fork and then try to eat it. Okay, so it's important that you play around with these features, and we're going to bring in some tutorial activities for the coming week, because as you know, we're introducing tutorial topics for the coming week a week before. So this week we'll be introducing the topic for week 3 that you will be dealing with it in the week 4 coming, which will be quite interesting for you because you'll have a time to look into it, read around it, and most importantly, prepare for it and then get the most out of these sessions. So in summary, we talked about some of the key platforms, social platforms for the world of business. We introduced the most popular features that are being used and why they're important. We also talked about the messaging effect that has on social media, on what's being said on social media. And also we mentioned the importance of experimenting with social media. Now, hopefully that was useful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave comments below. Doing like a YouTube now, but again, you can actually leave comments below in these sessions that we're publishing online. And then have a good week. Enjoy. I'm very much hoping you're enjoying the module. We're very much hoping that you're learning a lot from it, but we're here to help, right? So we're not going anywhere. We're here to help. So we'll be pushing you as much as you want to be pushed. In other words, we've got all the content and everything lined up for you, But if those of you that want to learn a bit more and get grasp of social media, then we're happy to drive you forward. So then one day when you go in the marketplace, you'll say, thanks to some of the content we received on social media, that was incredibly useful. I've done a much better job in my current position now. Okay, so I'll leave you to it, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.